What's up YouTube, and welcome back to another Infinite Painter tutorial, where today we're going to go ahead and create this beautiful Japanese sort of mountain top garden. Now as always, there's links to everything in the description down below for the requirements. There you will find the canvas sites, the palette, and also a guide as well. There's lots of helpful resources in the description down below, so if you get stuck, make sure just to check them all out first before you hit the comments section. So there's loads of important content there to help you on your way. I'm not very well at the time of recording this, so I do apologise if I'm a bit croaky at times. But as always, when you're done, make sure to tag me in your finished creations wherever you decide to share them, like Instagram and Facebook. And with all that said, let's get started. So as always, we're going to go ahead and we're going to create a new blank canvas at 2000 by 2000 and hit create. Once you're through, you're going to want to do a couple of things. We first of all want to go ahead and grab our fill tool, and I've put it here. Now, what we can do is if you go up to your tools, you can hold down on tools and fill and then pop it up here on your little menu. You can actually add loads of buttons up there. You don't have to do that, but it's going to save a little bit of time and an extra tap here and there just to jump straight to the fill. The other thing we want to do is import the guide. So we're going to go up to our three dots. We want to go to import, and we want to go ahead and select photos or files depending on where you've saved it to. And then once you've found it and you've tapped on it, it's going to ask, do you want to import it as a layer or a reference? We want to import it as a layer, and then hit the tick straight away. It should size itself accordingly. And if you tap on the layer and then tap on the layer 1, you can actually rename the whole thing, and you can just call it guide and then hit rename. Now, just a little tip, if I ever go too fast in these videos, tap on the video, go up into the top right corner up here, tap on settings and go to playback speed and slow me down. That way you can sort of match me to your pace a little bit more. Now, the next thing you're going to need is the palette. So if we go to our palettes, if you go to the third tab at the bottom here, you should see the majority of your palettes. But if you don't, you scroll all the way to the bottom and hit the plus. And then you'll see all of your palettes. You can hit the plus in the top right to import the palette file that I've already provided for you so that you can follow along with the exact same color. So we'll choose the Japanese landscape. And then when you come through, you'll see it here, but if you tap on your little disc down here, you should see the Japanese landscape. If you don't, just tap on the pill and now you should be able to see it in your listing. Now, as always with Infinite Painter, I urge you at multiple points throughout the whole of the tutorial to hit three dots and save. That way you can just let the app catch up a little bit. We're going to go ahead and work from front to back and just keep making our way through all the different layers. So we're going to go ahead and create a new layer. You can put your guide at the top, so you can drag that layer underneath so that your guide sits above it. And then you're going to want to go to your brush. Now, the main brush of choice today is the dry inker brush under pens. Now, I've selected it, but if I go to my settings, just make sure that your settings here match up. Of course, size is going to change, so don't worry about that one. But just in case anything else here, feel free to pause at any point, and then you can just triple check your settings against mine. And then the head should be exactly the same as well. I don't tend to mess around with any of these settings, to be honest with you. So I just want to make sure 100% that you've got exactly the same brush. So if we then go ahead, we set the size to probably around about, say, 11, roughly around about then. We go to our colors. You want to go ahead and we want to start working in towards the bottom of the scene. And so for that, we are going to go ahead and grab the fourth color in the palette on that top row. And then we're going to draw in these areas here. Now, of course, in the sort of design today, you do have a guide. I'm going to make the brush size a bit bigger, 34. And we're just going to sort of use the guide. And I'm going to bring it a bit smaller again, 23, just, to get us started and just make things a little bit quicker. You don't have to necessarily even use the guide. You can freehand it as much as you want. That's totally up to you. And then we're also going to go ahead and do this side while we're at it and just draw this in down towards here. And then I'm going to go to my fill tool. I'm going to tap and drag to the right. Once you get like a little bit of a fuzzy line, then tap and drag again and it will fill the whole thing in. So it's like a two sort of action. Tap and drag to the right, tap and drag to the right. And then hit the tick when you're done. If the colour spilled out into the whole palette or canvas, that means that you've got a gap somewhere. So you just need to make sure you fill in the gap. Now from here, we can go ahead and create another new layer. And I'm going to try and, because we're going to work from front to back, I'm going to try and allow you to save on your layers as we go, because we'll do a stage, finish it, and then move towards the back. So we're then going to go to our colours. We are going to grab the third colour in the palette. Same brush as we were just working with, except now we're going to start working in some bushes. So you want to kind of create these lovely kind of flowy kind of almost cloud-like shapes, and you can color them in manually if you'd rather than use the fill tool. Now in a minute we're going to outline these, so what I want you to do is as you're doing them, just try and remember sort of the shapes in which you have created, so that in a minute when you come to outline them, you can then quite easily sort of separate the shapes from one another. So again, they're just simply like little cloud-like shapes. So I'll draw one in coming from the edge there. I'll draw one in like here as well. And it's very, very simple today, just as long as you get that bubbly, flowy kind of shape. And a lot of the time, the only thing you kind of want to do is make sure you give yourself like a little bit of a flick on the end, like a little bit of a taper, so your brush gets a little bit thinner. I'm going to bring it down to 17%. Now, apologies if I perhaps don't sound 100% myself. I am not very well at the time of recording this, so I've got a very sore throat as well, so you'll have to bear with me throughout the whole of this. Let's go ahead then and just draw in like another one here. And again, they're just like clouds, but as long as you get that lovely little sort of flick off here and there, you can see at times as well, I go beyond the shape, and that's fine. You can go beyond here. Now, you don't want to sort of have them all the same. Like, you don't want them all separated perfectly. Like, I'll bring one in here and connect them together. That's fine. And I'll just color it in. And then I'll do like a little bit of a smaller one up the top there on its own, just as like a little bit of a floating one. And then just try and make sure you don't have too many kind of obvious kind of repeating sort of phases to this. So I'm just going to go ahead and connect these two together, but I'll separate them in a minute with my outline work. So I end up with something like this. And then we're just going to repeat that on the left-hand side as well. So I'm going to start off, first of all, just like a really big kind of bush-like shape down here. That's going to pretty much fill in the entirety of down here. Make sure you colour it in nice and solid. There we go, just going to do it all in one motion. As always, when you start to feel like you've done quite a lot, just hit 3 dots and save. It's just so much easier on the app, and also on your own mind, so that you know your work's not going to get lost if the app crashes and you need to come back into the app. Let's just go ahead and create another one over here. So another little flowy one. Now, this was actually one of my most popular tutorials on my main channel, so I brought it across onto this channel as well, and I love the effect of it. And it's maybe something we'll do a couple more of on this channel going forward, like the dry ink. And we're only going to use the dry ink, the soft airbrush, and after that, pretty much like that's it. I mean, we use an eraser here and there, but mainly it's just a very simple but yet repeating kind of style. And I'm going to draw in another one, kind of at a bit of an angle there. And again, just like curvy little shapes. You can have them be like little bits of thin color as well. You don't have to make them all super like cloud-like. You know, you can have like another one in there as well. You know, connect them together again. You can always separate them in a second. Just as long as you cover them, that's fine. And then just up onto the top here, we're going to add in our final few. I mean, really, they should get a little bit smaller towards the top, but it's not 100% necessary. I'll add in a few little smaller ones at the very top edge there. Now, that's all looking a little bit too repetitive on this edge, so the only thing I'll do is I'll just like make one go a little bit further outwards, just to try and break up that sort of standard line. So you've done your sort of shapes there. Feel free to pause at this point, but otherwise we're going to go ahead and create another new layer. We're going to go to our colors. You want to go ahead and grab the color, the first color in the palette, top left. And now you're going to outline them based off the lighting that throughout the whole of the design is going to be top left to bottom right. So we can go along here, along the edge of the bush, and then you can just create like little beautiful squiggly inky lines to just, again, break up the shapes. So I can go around this edge here. I can create like all of the levels to the bush, and then little sort of dashes perhaps here and there, just to give in a little bit more detail. And that's all you need to do then all the way up. So you can separate these two shapes, for example, by just drawing an outline that comes through there, and then a little bit more detail over the top. And then I'll just leave a gap, allow that to have its own space. And then I'll do the same over here. A couple more little lines here and there. Again, just trying to break it up. I will redo that. And keep making your way through. And sometimes it's easier to work from kind of left to right. So I'm just going along the edge, again, creating like little wobbly lines here and there, just to kind of create the bushy kind of growth in here. It's a very kind of minimalistic approach today. You're not trying to draw hyper-realism, of course, in any way. Just trying to have some fun with the simplicity of a dry ink kind of styling today. There we go, all the way, top to bottom. That looks lovely. And that's pretty much bang on. We don't necessarily need to do too much more than that. Maybe like a few additional kind of thin lines here and there. You can make your brush size a bit smaller, like an 11% perhaps, and just create much smaller little details in here, like little lines and dashes. But we've got a long way to go, so I'm not going to do too much more of that. Now we're going to just mirror this on this left hand side, but more so like in a sense that the lighting is somewhat from above. So we'll just do the same kind of thing, making our way across there, little wobbly lines. Again, a little bit more towards the left hand side, but more towards the top edges of some of these like little bits of shaping here. And of course, add in little dashes, little bumps and lumps here and there to create the growth. With something like this, you're not even trying to make it too specific. Like, I'm not trying to tell you if this is a bush, if this is rocks, if this is plants. I'm not too interested, because the approach is so simple and minimalistic that you're not meant to necessarily question, well, what type of plant is that? You know, it's meant to be super simple and just broken down into a minimalistic kind of illustration style that just means that you can just have fun with a repeating style throughout the whole of it. So once you get a little something like this, I think I might go a little bit smaller, like a 7.5, just to add in like a few more little dashes. I did too many kind of lines in there without any details in certain points. So a couple more little scrapes and lines and dashes, just to try and add a little bit more to some of these. There we go, that's looking a lot better. So now we can go ahead and do a similar effect that we're going to do throughout the whole of this. So 3 dots and save. And there's two things we're going to do. We're going to create gradients as well as these line marks. So, for example, the layer below, the dark red, tap on it, lock it, so you can't paint outside of it. You then want to go to your colours, and you want to use the middle red. Then so that's the second colour at the top there. You want to go to your brush. You want to change your brush to the option of, we're going to use the option of sprayers. So if I can find sprayers, there we go. And we want the medium airbrush. Now, just as always, my medium airbrush is set to 56, 56, and 50. When you tap on here at the bottom of that little menu, that's how I've got mine set up. And then the size probably wants to be a lot bigger than that, probably around about that 500 marker. Lovely. And then because we're going to create gradients, you want to just start at the top here and blend down and just create a red to dark red. And the difference, look, like it's kind of subtle to a degree, but you can see that little bit of gradient of red at the top here, all the way down, and do the same over here as well. So start at the top with this red and press a few times just to blend it down, and then a few more times at the top just to get a bit more color. That's very subtle, but it's the same approach throughout the whole of this. Then tap on the layer for your line work and lock that too. And then do the same, but start at the bottom, but press really lightly, because you don't want these lines to disappear, but you do want to create that gradient. There we go. So you get rid of kind of the bright orange at the bottom, and you focus the bright orange much more towards the top. Don't worry if you kind of lose your lines. You can always go back to your bright orange again, the first color, and then bring them back in at the top here by, just painting them back in. Because they're locked, you can just literally go back in there. And that's a very similar approach, as I said, throughout the whole of this tutorial now. It's creating shapes, line work, and then gradients, and we repeat. Now, if you want to, you can go ahead and actually you can tap on the line work, merge it down, and then tap on this one and merge it down as well. So you've got just one layer for the front. The alternative, if you've got the layers, you can just pinch them together into a group, and there you go. You can see that they're a bit more organized. 3 dots and save, because we're done with that. Let's go ahead then and start making our way further backwards. Now, we want to go ahead and probably draw in our trees up here. So let's go ahead and create a new layer. And we want to drag it underneath our group. You want to go to your pen again, change it back to pens, and you want the dry inker again. Your color, we want a nice dark tone, and that's going to be this one here. It's the bottom of the third column, so that one there. And then we are going to go ahead and draw in this tree over here. So I'm going to start probably with a smaller brush size, probably around about 14%. And I'm going to start off really lightly and then just create curly little lines all the way down. This is what we want to create. And then just like a curl, and then create some branches by creating curls and twists like this. So that's the whole style. And then you go up to the top as well and create another one up there. You can even create like another one here now, and another one there as well, to be fair. But this is all going to potentially get covered up, so you're not going to see too much of it, so don't worry about it too much. I'm then going to go up to a little bit of a higher brush size. I'm at a 48 now, so that I need to thicken up the tree down here, like in its base down here. So You of course want to make sure your tree gets thicker as it goes all the way up to the top. You can just colour that in all the way into the edge over here. Probably bring your brush size down a little bit to like 38, thicken it up and just try and flow it in there, and then just try and go up one branch or main area just to give your tree some weight in there. Then just bring your brush size back down to like a smaller size again, maybe down to like a 20, and just thicken up some branches. Let them be nice and thin on the end, but ultimately of course they need to be a little bit chunkier as they leave the main like trunk of the tree. There we go. So just thickening them up. Then you want to repeat that on the opposite side over here, except this tree is a little bit different. It comes in from the outside edge. So I'm pressing really lightly. You may not have pressure sensitivity, so you may just need to like reduce your brush size down. And then I'm going to just thicken this up quite a bit as it kind of comes in from the edge over here. I'll even have it kind of leave the scene and then come back into the scene. There we go. And then we'll do another little branch here. And then I'll do another one there, and then I'll let go because I'm already starting to get to the point where I need to thin them up. So I'm going to go much smaller, down to like an 8%, and then go along there. And then I just need to kind of just connect them together by like making the weight again of the branch get smaller. And then again, feel free to create like a smaller little curves and flicks. I'm going to go a bit bigger again, 13%. The size doesn't really matter, if I'm honest with you. It's just making sure that you end up creating just the basics of the tree and these beautiful kind of swirls and curls. Just keeping it very, very simple. 3 dots and save. Let's then go ahead and create another new layer. Go to your colors, and you want to go ahead and grab this color here. It's towards the bottom down here, so bottom of the first column. And then very similar kind of shaping to here, except even more purposeful. We're going to draw in some like lovely kind of styling up here. So you can create like curly kind of like shapes, and then make sure you get like a thin taper on the end, and they're definitely like cloud almost shapes. And then you can use the fill if you want and tap and drag to the right, as I said once, and then tap and drag again to the right again, and then just hit the tick and fill in any gaps if you have any. But you want these kind of lovely flowy curly kind of, they're almost like clouds, but you ultimately like get like a bit of a sort of Japanese kind of styling to it. There we go, lovely, lovely shape, very abstract kind of cloud-like cherry blossom kind of shaping. Use my fill tool. So you can see me doing all the same things that we've already done, except, you know, potentially at a bit of a pace that's a little bit faster, just occasionally. And then I'll just make my way through all of this. So I don't tend to skip ahead in my tutorials. I tend to do everything with you. So it's only infrequently that I will do that. Let's go ahead and then do another one over here, so we can make our way through it together. We can go a bit smaller, about 19 on the size. And then again, we're just colouring it in, just creating all of the lovely sort of leaves. Of course, at the top here, try and start to think about making these shapes a little bit smaller. So maybe go right to the top and create like your very top one, just so that you know like that's the smallest you can go. And then like flow out the leaves and the foliage from there. You know, make that one a bit wider, but then I'll maybe tuck in like a slightly smaller one underneath, just in this gap, and then maybe like a very, very small one just here, and then zoom out. And that's roughly what you want to be aiming for, to be honest with you. You could add a little bit more than that, but I'm going to keep it to a simple level, and then it's up to you. You can just go ahead quite easily, to be honest with you, and duplicate that layer. So tap on the layer and duplicate it. Hit the 3 dots and save just while we're at it. Then go up to your tools, go to the option of edit and basic transform. And then just use this icon here to flip it horizontally and then move it across. And it may or may not work. It may look a little bit odd. You may want to like crop it off completely over on the right hand side a bit more. Just try and find somewhere that just gives you a bit of a head start, to be honest with you. And then just draw in a few more to make it different from the opposite side. You can even change up like if you can see something that looks extremely repetitive, you know, just change it, you know, add in like a little bit more. You can even use your eraser and, you know, remove some if you want to as well. But that should have given you a very good head start and saved yourself a little bit of time. So I'm just going to add in like another one in there, and they should look a little bit different to each other, which should look fantastic. Now from there, you can tap on those and merge them down. So you can tap on it and merge, which will then put the 2 layers on the same layer. Again, 3 dots and save. Let's then add in the details again. So we'll create a new layer. We go back to our color. We grab the color just beside it, so bottom of the 3rd column. And then in a similar way, just exactly the same as we did at the bottom, you want to start adding in some color to that left-hand side where that lighting is, except maybe try and make these ones like a little bit more curly, a little bit more wavy perhaps, just so that they're a tiny bit different. And then, you know, make your way all the way through your little areas of blossom up here. It's such a fun and simple way of doing things, and I always want to show like different styles, because you may watch a tutorial of mine and then go, that is 100% me. I love that style, and I'm going to keep doing more of it. And then hopefully you find and manage your own styles that you can enjoy and take forward into your own work perhaps, or, you know, even your job. I don't know, whatever you want to do. And then obviously don't forget, now I've moved over here, the lighting is still up in that top left hand side, so you're still just illuminating this kind of top edge as well as the left hand side. So a couple more little waves and curls in here. But yes, this is then potentially something you would see and go, I really like that. I'm going to make sure I do that in all of my work going forward, in your own style, in your own time, and see what other sort of landscapes perhaps you can do. Like I've done more with these dry inks, again mainly through my main channel. If you didn't know, I've got multiple channels here on YouTube, one of which is in the Procreate space, and I've been doing that full time for a long time. So yeah, that's pretty much where I spend most of my time. So we have done the line work, and then this one we're not going to do quite the same. We are going to go ahead and just tap on the layer here, and you're going to go ahead and create a new layer and tap on it and clipping mask it to it. So you've clipped a layer to the main red shape. So we're going to leave the lines that we just done. This layer here, just tap on it and change its blend mode from normal to the option of multiply. Then tap away. And then when you tap away, if you go ahead and go to your colors and go back to the bottom left of the palette, then go back to your brush, go back to the option of sprayers. So if I always sort of lose it in the listing, sprayers, and again, the medium airbrush. And then you can just darken this now, depending on how you want to do it. You could darken from the top, you could darken from the bottom. I might darken from the top over here, just to blend down, and then give them a little bit of darkness up there. And then maybe alternate it, maybe sort of darken it at the bottom down here so it's lighter at the top. I think that looks quite fun. It's just a nice little change up, switches it up on either side. So you can always go ahead and tap on that layer and reduce it as well if it's a bit too dark for you. So maybe 70% looks pretty good. So again, 3 dots, save. You've then got the option to tap on that layer and merge it down if you want to, or you can then merge all of those layers together, those 4, or you can pinch them together and keep hold of them and put them in a group. So I can pinch on, if I can grab the layer, I want to pinch those 4 together into a group, and there we go. I'm then going to go ahead and create a new layer, drag it underneath that group again, because we are going to make our way backwards. So tap on it, bring it down, and tap on it and turn off the clip if it clips itself. Next up, we're going to go ahead and just create some very simple rocks over here that we'll later actually duplicate and sort of use, well, not use again, but repeat over there. And that's just going to be over here. So we're going to go to our brush again, pens. It will already set it to the dry inker. You want to go to your colors, and you want to grab this color here, middle of the 2nd column. Just over here on the right, you'll see these sort of jagged lines. I'm going to come across, I'm drawing as we speak, into the scene. And then you can create like, especially if you keep your brush size a little bit lower, like 9%, you can just create like sharp angular lines. And as long as they kind of just fall in behind your front layer here, go from down here, go all the way off to the right hand side, and then maybe do it again. And then go to your fill, tap and drag to the right, tap and drag to the right, and then hit the tick. It doesn't necessarily matter sometimes if you get a few little speckles of the blue, because ultimately you're going to end up like having that style throughout. You can see the texture. So then we're going to create a new layer, very similar fashion. We'll go back to our colors. We are going to go ahead and grab the bright orange here, middle of the 4th column, except this one has a slightly different style. Of course, it's rock rather than plants. So I want you to kind of go down the edge of there and then go boom, straight across the top of it as well. So you create like straight lines and then just like little ledges by creating like horizontal lines, and then from there, you should be able to start like colouring this all in. So I can bring in like a big rocky kind of ledge here, a little bit of the colour on the top surface. I'm going to skip this one at the back because I want to push that further back in the design. I'll just simply create like a little bit of orange here, some swooping lines to dictate kind of the flow of the land all the way down. And then this one here, I'll add some colour to, back there. And then maybe just like a few little lines just at a diagonal angle to show like rock and the flow of the rock going down. And you can kind of, you know, merge a few of these together if you want to, like create like big areas of colour like so. You don't want to overdo it, but just a little something like that. Then just like before, we'll tap on this layer, we will lock it so we can't draw outside of it. We go to our colours and we add in a new colour, so middle of the third column now, a little bit of a brown tone. And then you go back to your brush, you want to go to, again, sprayers, it will be the medium brush. And then it doesn't matter what your size is, just at the bottom here, you want to fade them out, creating a lovely little gradient again in your work. So you're just kind of fading them out like so, leaving the brighter edge towards the top. So that's another layer done. We can then go ahead, you can pinch them two together if you wish, it's totally up to you. I'm going to go ahead and pinch them together, of course. I'm then going to go ahead and I will tap on my guide at the top and create a new layer and then drag that layer all the way to the bottom. Next up, we are going to go ahead and 3 dots and save. We are going to go to our colours. We are going to start working on the pathway at the bottom here. So we're going to go ahead and grab this colour here. It's the middle of the 5th column. We're then going to go to our brush, change it back to pens, and you want the dry ink again. Now we're going to do the path here, so we want to go ahead first of all. I've got brush size set to 9 pixels. I'm going to go across here with a bit of a straight line all the way to the other side of the Tory gate. And then we need to create like a lovely flowing S shape. And you want to follow the guide as best as you can to create that all the way down. So you just need to make sure you go all the way to the edge of your canvas at the bottom. And then up here, you're going to do a similar fashion. So you're going to come along here, along there, and then just let that go whoom, in behind. And as long as you go ahead and make sure there's no gaps, you should be able to go to your fill tool and tap and drag to the right. If it goes out like that, just hold and drag to the left, and then tap and drag again once you've filled it in, and then keep filling it in case you miss anything. Now, perhaps you can turn off your guide and just triple check. I've got too much of a white outline there, to be honest with you. So I'm just gonna very quickly just color that in. So I'm just coloring in this little bit of a gap here, all the way around. It's okay. I know some people will get upset and say, oh, you should have used the fill tool, the fill brush. I don't like the fill brush at all. It's not a very fun brush to use. Anyway, there we go. Now the next step is to go ahead and actually erase from this and create steps. So we're going to go ahead and go to our eraser, tap on our eraser. I want you to go into calligraphy and the monoline brush. We are going to go ahead and set the size to something fairly small, I would imagine, like a 12%. That's probably okay. And we just need to start chipping away at here and creating some steps. Now start at the bottom and create like a cut in like that. There we go. And then create another cut in. And they want to be fairly, not large at the bottom, but these are going to be your largest steps. And then as you're slowly making your way upwards, I want you to start to think about making these a bit smaller and then like just a little bit less effective as well. Because once you get into this curve here, they have to stop. So I just want you to create that sort of step-like effect here. And then that's going to wrap around here, and then you want to kind of go up and across and then up and across. So like up and across. I mean, to be fair, it's probably easier to go the other way, isn't it? We'll come down, in, and you can do it on one layer or one line even, should I say, or you can just create like lines in like that, like lots of lines inwards. As long as you go horizontal, you're okay. And it's just meant to give you just the rough idea that there's some steps there. Likewise, over here in the distance, we want to eventually start to sort of see the steps materialize their way in. So I'm just creating like little cut-ins here, using the brush and pushing just off to the right-hand side, just to create a simple idea that there's some steps. Now, you may end up getting some really sharp edges, so just chop them off, just in case, because the brush is rounded, you may get some sharp edges. Just chop them off, that's fine. It should just rough it up enough that you understand that there's tiers to it. Now, then tap on this layer, lock it. You then want to go ahead and go to your brush, and you want to tap on your brush. You want to go to the option again of sprayers. We then want to go to our color. We want to grab the middle of that column, so middle of the third column from the right, and then brush size is still the same. I'm just going to go ahead and create a gradient. So I'm pressing really, really lightly. If you don't have pressure sensitivity, you need to bring your opacity much, much lower. I do, so I can just fade that down, creating a lovely gradient of color. Don't go too harsh at the top here. It doesn't need to be super, super bright, but as long as you get that lovely gradient, you're good to go. Then we're going to add in the steps. Now I want you to hit the 3 dots and save again. We're going to create a new layer. We're going to go to our color. We're going to grab the color to the right, so middle of the second column from the right. Your brush wants to again be pens and the dry inker. But we need to add a guide, so we're going to go to our edit options here. We're going to go to the option of, we want to find the grid option, so perspective and grid. Now it doesn't matter what the grid size is, this is important. You want to make sure you tap on the magnet till it goes dark, and then you can go ahead and draw horizontally super quick and easy. So with a brush size set to 9 pixels, the bottom edge of some of these steps, I'm going to tap on the layer and clip it. I'm going to go ahead and just push across to create like the dark edge of the step. So I can make my brush size probably a little bit bigger, maybe like a 13%. And just honestly, just push and create horizontal lines, especially here at the bottom. You can maybe sort of make them a bit more sort of purposeful. And don't forget, you need to go all the way to the very bottom down here. And then as you get a bit further back, bring your brush size down to like a 7. And then get much, much smaller, and don't worry too much, if I'm honest with you. Just push those lines across, getting gradually lighter and lighter and lighter, thinner and thinner and thinner. And then I'm just gonna keep making my way through the curve. It doesn't matter. You should just be able to draw horizontally now. Then bring your brush size down again to like a 2.5 perhaps. And then as we get much higher, you could probably make your brush a bit bigger, like a 4. We do need some dark lines in here. We need that distinction. You don't need to sort of work out specifically, oh, well, should there be a step here because of the gap between? No, you don't need to do any of that. You just need to just draw in some horizontal lines, probably a bit bigger again, to be honest with you. An occasional sort of chunky line in there will look fantastic. It will break it up, make it look nice and uneven, natural stone steps that look beautiful. And then as long as you get something like this, you're pretty much good to go. Like you've done everything there to dictate that there are some steps. You know, feel free though on like some edges, like maybe just purposely like draw in like a dark line here or there, just to try and, you know, tidy it up a tiny bit, you know, like connect it right up, you know, draw right up against the edge of the step, perhaps, you know, like here on the edge. There we go. Maybe thicken these ones up at the front, just a tiny, tiny bit, 13%. Pixels, as they say in this app. Lovely. And then we're going to go ahead and stay on the same layer. We're just going to go to our colors and grab the yellow again to the middle of the third column from the right and set that size a little bit smaller. And then just on the top edge of some of your steps, so top edge, you're just going to draw in like a little highlight here and there, just to try and add in variety throughout the lines. So you can make your way through there and then just keep adding in more. I'm going to go to a 6 and just basically drawing in more horizontal lines just on top of a few of those lines to maybe show there's highlight. Now, do not add highlight here on this bend. We're going to put that in the shadows in a minute. So we're just going to try and highlight a few lines here and there just to show some lighting. That's probably a little bit too consistent, to be honest with you. And then maybe a few just a little bit lower here. I think that'll do. I don't think we need to add any more here because I think we're going to get into the shadows too much. So we've got our steps. We will add shadows to this basically, but we may need to come back to this. I urge you not to delete this layer to merge it down. We're going to create a new layer. It will clip itself automatically. You can then go ahead and turn off this magnet. You can tap on this icon here as well to get rid of the grid. We'll go to our colors. We're going to go ahead and darken up the bend on the left-hand side. So we're going to grab the color here again, the middle of that second column from the right. Your brush wants to be set to sprayers, and again the medium airbrush. Size probably wants to be a bit smaller though, probably around about 200. We're going to darken up this bend here. So take your time, you know, just to build in like a shadow, because there's going to be land here on the left hand side which is going to block that, and likewise here too. So we're just going to darken up under here. So I'm going to bring that brush size down to like a 17%. You can see my pen. I'm just going to darken up a little bit around this bend and then blend that down. So you should end up with like a little bit of a shadow here. I can push that across just a little bit. There we go. And then likewise, just blend that across as well. I am then going to go to our colors though. I am going to darken this up a bit more. So I'm going to grab let's grab the blue in the middle of the second column. Let's just darken that up a little bit at the bottom. So fading that out into blue. Just keeping it really, really light. I liked how I did it the first time. And then I'm going to just add in a bit more blue in that shadow, but keeping it much more towards the edge over here. So just a bit more of that blue just over here. And then likewise, I'll just do a little bit more blue just around that edge to really kind of emphasize the shadow part of it. And that will come into play in a second. So again, 3 dots. We're going to go ahead and save. You can pinch them together. What I'd urge you to do is if you want to pinch your lines that you created for your steps to your, well, tap on it, should I say, and merge it down if you're concerned about your layers. But I'm going to keep hold of it again. So I'm going to group it together, tap on my guide, create a new layer, drag it to the very bottom because we want to go ahead and keep making our way back in the scene. And we'll work on our next element. So we're going to go to our brush, we're going to go back to pens, dry inker. We're going to go to our colors. We're going to grab this color here, top of the 4th column. You want to tap away and we want to bring our guide back in. You see this area of land here. Now, we need to go ahead and actually put this in front of the stairs. So I'm going to drag this layer in front of the stairs. Technically, it's going to make its way backwards in the scene, but it pokes its head out just enough here to create the shadow. So just temporarily, you're going to be in front. So we're going to set our brush size to something around about like 8. And we're going to draw in this line here and just bring it down underneath or in front of the steps, should I say. This is important here. You're coming up in front of the steps. You can create like a wobbly line across. It honestly doesn't really matter too much. A wobbly-ish line, go across. And now because this is in the way, you just need to go all the way round. I'm drawing as we speak. Link them together so there's no gap. And then you can tap on your fill tool, tap and drag to the right until it doesn't fill. There we go. And then tap again and then hit the tick and then just color in any obvious like little bits of white lining. Now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and we want to, in fact, at this point, change our background color. So we're going to tap on this circle here, tap on color. You're going to want the Japanese landscape palette. Scroll down and you want to grab the color, which is actually going to be this color here. It's the bottom of the 4th column. Then we want to go ahead and tap away. Now, technically, that's not actually our background color. It's actually the top of the sky. So before we carry on with this layer anymore, we're going to save, shall I say. We're going to create a new layer and drag it all the way to the bottom of our layers. So hold down on it, drag it all the way to the bottom. You want to go to your colors. We want to scroll down again and we want to grab this color here. So we want to grab the bottom of the 3rd column. Your brush wants to be the sprayer again and the medium brush, if you can manage it. Set your size nice and large, about 1000 in size, and look where the mountain is. I want you to create a little bit of a glow from behind the mountain and blend that up in your sky. So you create a gradient in the sky. So I'm going to do that again. It's mainly down here that I need you to make sure you put a lot of this yellow in here. Make sure it's nice and solid, and then just blend that color up and into the sky to create a lovely gradient. You can always come back to this, but you know, make sure you get that lovely bit of color in there. Now with that done, we can tap on this shape. We can then create a new layer. We can tap on it. We can click that new layer. And then we can use the background color, which I'm currently still using, and the sprayer. I'm going to bring the size down to like 500. And I'm going to blend this out at the bottom. Just creating a bit of a glow. And then once you've done a little bit of a glow, go to the actual shape itself. Grab your eraser and tap on your eraser. And again, set that to the option of sprayers. And you can use the medium brush or the hard brush. I'm going to use medium still. I'm going to set that size to something around about, say, 200. I'm going to erase this until I start to see my lovely little path start to come back in. There we go. So I'm going to erase there, just making sure you get rid of all of it on top of the path. There we go. Until you get like a bit of a solid line, basically. And then you can go back to that glow layer that you clipped to it. Go back to your brush. And then you can just create that lovely fade out at the bottom down here. So it's super, super light. You can even go ahead and change your brush to the soft airbrush if you'd rather, and just create a super light gradient of color where it just fades down into the rest of the scene. Now this will all come about in a bit more when we add in more detail. So let's tap on the main shape. Let's then go ahead and we could probably stay directly on here. We're going to go to our brush again. We are going to go to the option of pens again, of course, dry inker. Going to go to our color. We're going to scroll back up in our palette. We want this color here, top of the 5th column. And your brush probably wants to still be, again, probably around that marker we've already been working on. So 8 to 20, something around there. It's perfectly fine. And then I want you to draw in diagonal lines sort of at an angle like this, just creating kind of the idea of rock and the kind of flow of like a cliff-like edge. So you can put a few lines close together. You can then put some smaller lines together. So you can just about see mine. I've gone a bit smaller now with the brush size. Don't fill in the entirety of it. I'm just adding in some additional lines here to show like jaggedness of rock. So I'm just creating like lines here pointing upwards and downwards, but a little bit of that diagonal angle just to show that this is rising up and out of the clouds, basically. There we go. Then go to your colors. Grab the color just beside it, top of the 6th column, and then just to the left-hand edge of some of those, just think about adding in this little bit of a brighter tone. It's also a bit greener, but keep your brush size a bit smaller. I'm down to like a 7, I believe. Just adding in what is essentially like a bit of a highlight on some of these rocky edges. And you can maybe even introduce some more if you really wish. And then, you know, bring some in from the very, very bottom as if, again, it comes in from the clouds below. Just a little something like that. It's very, very simply done, if I'm honest with you. It's super simple, very minimalistic. Then just above our glow, create a new layer, tap on it and unclip it. Hit the 3 dots and save. Then go to your colors. We're going to start working in the green tones. So top of the 2nd column from the right. Size probably wants to be around about 10. And then using we'll turn off the guide because we don't necessarily need it on. I'm going to go ahead and start drawing in some very simple, I'm going to go a bit bigger, the brush size 20. I'm going to start drawing in some, like, that's probably too big, some simple green areas. So I want to find a spot basically where I can send the green down the cliff edge. So I'm going to create like wobbly, flowy lines here, and then I'll leave that and then create more flowy lines. And like lots of green, like bush-like areas. Maybe it runs down the cliff down there. And then we start at the bottom and then we make our way up towards the edge. Bring your brush size down a little bit, say down to like a 10. And then you're just creating flowy green areas of like, again, do we think they're bushes? Do we think they're growths, like plants? It honestly doesn't really matter. As long as we're kind of giving this top edge a little bit of kind of greenery, it will look fantastic. So feel free to like change it up and add in like a big flowy bit of like green in there, just so that they're not all like small little bumps and lumps. Just so there's a little bit of you know, uniqueness to it, but you're just basically adding like greenery that is stuck on the top of this cliff. So I'm going to draw in like a little bit of green in there too. This top edge is quite important because you can really dictate kind of like the greenery stepping up off the top of the cliff. So I'm just going to go ahead and just tackle in a little bit more here. Some of them are just literally just squiggly lines all over the place because sometimes I get in the habit of making things look too uniformed and too perfect in a sense of that they are, you know, evenly spaced and all that kind of stuff. And we don't want that at all. So I'm going to go all the way to the very right hand edge over there, create like a bit of a fluffy bit hanging over the edge. And again, feel free to like make one go a little bit higher if you want to, just to make sure that edge is a little bit uneven, a little bit more flowy off to the left hand side. There we go. So from there, you can then go ahead and stay on the same layer, go to your colors, go to the green, top right of the palette, 3 dots and save just in case. And then just like we did with our line work before, all of your line work, or I say all of it, you don't have to do all of it, but all of your line work, as long as you highlight the left-hand edge where that light is going to come across, it's going to land on all of our little green tufts up here, then you're going to go ahead and highlight these and bring them back out, make them nice and colourful. So little squiggles and wiggles, and like these are meant to be like, if I didn't want to define them, but they are meant to be just like natural growth and maybe like mossy kind of look to them. So, you know, feel free to work towards that if you wish. Now I'm going to go ahead and just make sure I add in like a little bit of green here, just like flowing down, bring the brush size down to like a 6, just to create variety in the sizes and scales. I want the green to like flow down a little bit over here. So I want to have like little sort of tufts of just green, just making its way down the cliff edge almost. And then over here, go back up a little bit bigger to like an 8. And there we go. A couple more tufts. Little bits of green. And I'm not trying to do absolutely everywhere, but I have done obviously the majority there, as you can see. I might even like connect these two together to create like a really large tuft. Maybe even like make this one a bit bigger as well. And then I'll just maybe just sort of tap occasionally just to try and see if I can get any like little scuffs or buffs of colour to just land in there. Now we do have one more colour to add. So if you go to your colours again and grab the yellow in the middle of the first column, you want to be a bit smaller again, maybe around about 5 or 6. And then just a few little edges that you think would get the most lighting. I'm going to go a bit bigger with the brush, in fact, like an 8. I'm going to go ahead and just give a little dash of like some beautiful sunlight, like especially the ones over here on the left hand side where we think that the sunlight would cast and land on here the most. And then obviously you don't add any that run down the cliff because there's no sunlight making its way across there. So it's like a very simple kind of emerging cliff into your scene. Hopefully that gives you that effect. Now, just like before, you can pinch them together, merge them. It's totally up to you. I'm going to pinch them together. So I've got my little cliff. Now we're actually going to go ahead and do another version of this, but over on the right hand side. So we are going to go ahead and create a new layer, and you want to put it in behind your, well, in fact, you need to be in front of the path again, technically. So we'll leave it here where it is. We'll go ahead and go to our colors again. Top of the 4th column, brush again, still the dry inker, and we want to draw in another one. Let's bring our guide back in. So this one's going to sit in this entire space over here. So we are going to go ahead and sort of draw in the top edge of it here, make it nice and fluffy, like here. So it's get really close to the edge of the path. You can sort of go into the path a little bit, but not a lot, and then go along this line here. And as long as you go all the way off to the right hand side, and then you go all the way down here. Now, you don't necessarily need to keep it super tight to the actual like path here, but it's totally up to you. As long as you go to here and then go off to the right hand side again. So just like before, you can grab your fill tool, tap and drag to the right until it doesn't fill, and then just tidy up any edges. So let's get in there, tidy up some edges. Now, the only thing we're not going to do on this one is the rocky effect. We could potentially add some, but we'll see, because in my pre-practice of this one I never did it, so that's why we're not going to. The other thing we're going to do again is we are going to go ahead and erase from this layer. So we're going to grab our eraser, tap on our eraser. It should still be set to sprayers in the soft airbrush. I'm going to set the size a lot smaller, down to like 280 there, and we want to make sure we erase just down here, especially just behind our little pathway here. I'm going to turn off my guide so I can just see my line work. I'm going to set the size a bit smaller, because here we want that overhang. So we do want it to kind of appear, but we also want it to kind of disappear then quite quickly, like tuck itself in behind the pathway. So you want to just go along this edge here, making sure if you go over yourself with the soft airbrush a few times, you do end up with quite a solid kind of line there. But make it kind of misty, you know, make like a 70% and wiggle your pen through here to create like misty clouds. Again, like this all just appears from like, you know, we're up in the clouds, and you end up with this lovely pathway to this lovely Tory gate, and yeah, it's going to look lovely. Let's just try and wiggle our pen through here. A couple of taps, make your brush size really small, like a 40, and just create like wiggly lines. But again, you just want to make sure that your path is nice and separated. Here, I actually might need to just adjust my shape here. It can overhang in front, but it can't overhang on the left. So I'm actually going to have to tidy that up just so that it matches up and works in the scene. Now from that, you can go ahead, create a new layer. Of course, let's hit 3 dots and save. We're going to do the little bits of green on the top. So we're going to go back to our brush. We want to make sure it's still pens and dry inker. We want to go to our colors, and we want to grab the top of the second column from the right, tap away, and then just like before, we're going to go ahead and add in all those lovely green sort of spots in here. So I'm going to make brush size probably a little bit bigger to start with, like a 20, so I can maybe add in some like larger ones. I'm not going to go too low. I'm going to go a bit smaller again. I get a little bit sort of brave, and then I retreat quickly because I want to make sure I get the sizing right. So I'll do a few down here, and that's probably as low as I'm probably going to go, to be honest with you. So a couple of bit of green just to start at the bottom, so I get kind of like an outline almost. Can do a few more in there, and then just like before, we'll just bring our brush size down to like a 9 and kind of add in all of the little tufts and growths, and then like a little bit over that edge as well. You know, little bits, little wiggly lines, little outlines basically to this green area. You can leave gaps. Gaps will actually look great because it will just break up the scene. It won't be too consistently like green, and then you'll end up leaving what is essentially a shadow. So it'll look fantastic. So feel free to leave gaps. It will look good. Mainly the top edge up here is where you want to make sure you get your greenish sort of areas in. Zoom all the way out, triple check you've got enough colour. And then I'm going to leave a gap, as I just said. I'm going to leave like this area here. I'm going to create like a more growth up here. A little bit fluffier on the top edge up there perhaps, just so I can break up that shape that I created initially. And yeah, that looks pretty good. I'm not going to add in much more than that. I'm going to leave it as it is. All I'm going to do is repeat the same steps. I'm going to go to the green at the top of the far right column. I'll hit the 3 dots and save, mind you. And again, left hand side of your little squiggles here, you can add in like a lovely little bit of highlight on these. They can be like trailing thin lines if you really want them to be, like a little very skinny lines just running through here. And then another one along this edge. I'm trying to actually press really, really lightly so that the brush just like trickles a little bit of colour onto the edge. I don't want to add in too much. Over here though, the sunlight's coming through a lot more, so you can, add in a little bit more should you wish, and maybe like a little bit just kind of hanging down. You can almost like create like growths in here that are like almost not like vines, but a little bit kind of viney in a sense, where they're kind of hanging down, which I think will look quite cool. So maybe we'll even go back to that one and add it. I didn't draw that the first time, so yeah, this is like a new addition on the fly. There we go. Okay, lovely. A little bit of green, a little bit further back again. Okay, cool. We are going to keep making our way through the scene. The next part is to actually go a little bit behind the path. I'm going to leave the Tory gate and the mountain, etc. till the end. So again, you can pinch them into a group, hit the 3 dots and save. We want to go ahead, tap on our guide, create a new layer, and drag that layer all the way to the very bottom. We are working in behind now, so we can go ahead and go to our colors. We are going to go ahead and work in a very similar style to that right hand side. So we're going to grab the middle of the second column. We're going to bring back in our guide, and we can see this rocky structure here with a brush size probably around about say 7 or 8. You want to just start to work it in here. So create like a little bit. And you don't have to follow my guide specifically. Again, this is just like a guide based off of the first time I drew this and off of my previous YouTube tutorial for this where I did it in Procreate. So I'm going to go all the way down here, and then go from your end point all the way round to up here and connect them together. So again, you can use your fill tool, tap and drag until it overflows, and then tap and drag again, hit the tick. Don't worry if you get any speckles of kind of the brush in there. I actually think it looks quite good like that. Now, we're then going to go ahead and we are going to fade out the bottom. Now, we're going to go ahead and just simply tap on the layer, and we are going to lock it so we can't paint outside of it. We're going to go to our brush. We're going to go to the option of sprayers. Tap on sprayers. We're going to use the medium brush, of course, or soft airbrush, either. Go to the very bottom and select the bottom of the third column of your palette. And I'm still using the soft airbrush, I believe, so about 128 now, or 180 should I say. I'm just going to fade out the bottom, and then I'm going to a little bit more just in behind here, just kind of fade out a little bit more, especially down in this like bottom left hand corner. And then I'm going to again bring my brush size down a lot smaller, like a 40, and just create like wiggly, like misty kind of lines in here to create like, again, like glowy bits of mist, just making its way up the scene just a little bit. It gives it a bit more atmosphere. Now feel free, even if you have already like merged the layers, it's perfectly fine. If you find the layer, for example, like here, so this group here, we'll tap on the group and open it. I can go to the fade here at the bottom and input this style in here as well. Like we didn't enter any mist. So all you need to do if you've merged it already is just simply create a new layer. I'm just going to wiggle my pen in here just to create some misty like lines. Just wiggly lines. There we go. Just to give it a bit more atmosphere and cloud-like look. We'll collapse that down. We'll go back to the layer we were working on. Now there's a really important step here because we've kind of eliminated the edge of this path. So all we're going to do is stay on the same layer. We're going to go to our colors, brush, sorry. We're going to go back to pens. We'll then go to our colors. We will go scroll back up. We want to be again the middle of the second column, and then just on the edge of your path here, I want you to reapply the color, but draw in a straight line and then blend. And then just color that in. So what you're doing there is you're trying to reinvent the edge of the path, so that there you go, you get that kind of edge border like so. Then if you go back to your colours and you grab again the misty tone bottom of the third column, go back to your brush and the sprayers again, so sprayers and the soft brush. If you keep your size nice and small, around about say 44, you can just very, very lightly, manually, just wiggle in a little bit of a blur at the bottom here. Maybe even like a 29, just to kind of create like a little bit of a cloud-like shape, just emerging from here. But you just don't want to eliminate the sort of solid shape there. You need to keep hold of the solid shape as much as possible, but it kind of blends it in with the environment of this one over here. So we've then kept that in play. That looks lovely. We can then go ahead and add in the colours to it. So again, we'll create a new layer, hit the 3 dots and save. Go to your colours. We're going to scroll back up. We're going to grab the orange again, middle of the 4th column. Brush. You're going to go to the option of pens, and you want the dry inker. And we're going to draw in some much needed like highlight lines over here. So we're going to create rock again by, let's turn off our guide, by just creating like sharp lines. You can bring your brush size down even to like a 4, and you can create like little edges of rock all the way down and just like connect them together, make some areas like a little bit chunkier, like a big area of like rock over here. Zoom all the way out, because all it is just like diagonal kind of squiggly lines, and then occasionally like a little bit of a top to them. So here I'll draw in like a line here. I've got the brush set to 4 if you're interested, and then I'm just going to like add in like a little bit of colour on this ledge here, and then let that kind of get sharp again up towards the top again, where I'll create like a flattish ledge to add in some colour on there. We'll create some lines across, some more lines down, and again a couple more along here, a couple more along the top edge, and then again a little bit more down here too. So just little diagonal scribbly kind of rocky lines, exactly how we did this one over here. It's just a bit further back, that's all. And then just like before, we tap on it, we'll lock it, we'll go to our brush, we'll go to sprayers, we'll go to our colors, we'll grab the middle of the 3rd column, and then we will set the brush size a bit bigger. Now I'm currently still using the soft airbrush, and that's fine. I just want to, in fact, probably will switch it to the medium airbrush. It's a bit faster, and then just fade out those lines at the bottom, creating that lovely gradient and just leaving the top edges a little bit more orange. Now we have a very, very simple rocky area to add at the very back. So let's pinch those two together, hit the 3 dots and save. We'll tap on our guide, create a new layer, drag it all the way to the very bottom in front of this gradient though of color, of course, for your background. You want to go to your pen again, make sure you go to pens and dry inker, your color. We need like a bluish tone, so we're probably going to go ahead and grab, I reckon, the top of the 5th column there. You can tap away, and then I'm just going to use my brush size set to about 14. I'm going to draw in like a simple kind of line here, avoiding running into a corner. I'm going to keep drawing underneath here as we speak. I'm going to pop it up here, create like another little rocky edge, and make sure you go all the way off to the right hand side, and then just draw in a straight line like through the back of your scene. In fact, I probably need to be a bit lower than that, like around about here. Don't worry if you see it kind of emerge under here, we'll fix it in a second. Go to your fill tool, tap and drag to the right twice, of course, until it fills in. And then let's just go ahead and grab our eraser, tap on our eraser and use the medium brush under sprayers. And then while we're here, we'll just make sure we erase from here, just triple checking it doesn't interfere with the layer in front, and then set it to like 134 and just blend that out at the bottom, especially down into here, like really lightly. You know, feel free to change it to your eraser, sorry, to the soft brush. And again, like drawing those like misty, cloudy like lines here. There we go, just a little couple of wiggles, but also make sure your brush size is big enough that you can just blend this out and create like a lovely faint line here at the bottom. I'm going to do the same over here. We need to make sure it doesn't interfere with the layers in front of it, so we keep erasing, there we go, till it doesn't. And then just below the very bottom edge of it, you can just wiggle your pen through there, little wiggle of something up here too. Nothing too much over there, to be honest with you, but a little bit of consistency. 3 dots, save. We're then going to go ahead and create a new layer. We're going to go to our pen again, so pens, dry inker. Go to your colors and scroll down until you get to this color here, bottom of the Second column from the right. Size, I don't know, 14, pretty standard. We're not going to do too much to this. We're just going to keep it super simple and draw in like rounded kind of rocky-ish shapes back here. Like super simple, like not even overcomplicating it at all. Really easy to look at, just straightforward. It's so far back, we're not really interested. We'll do the same here as well. Like a few more like rocky shape. I'm going to bring the brush size down so I can press a bit firmer, like an 8, maybe a bit bigger than that. And then again, rocky-ish kind of just boulder-like shapes, just like outlines. That's all it needs to be. It's so far back, we're not fully interested. And then we're going to simply go ahead and actually grab our eraser, tap on your eraser and use the soft brush again. And then we're just going to fade them out as well. So just brush size set to 116, just fade them out at the bottom, just until you just leave them towards the top edges of back there. I think that looks perfectly fine like that. We'll blend that out at the bottom, like the edges of the lines. And there we go, just some very simple consistency of the theming. So let's hit the 3 dots and save. The next thing I want to draw in is the actual mountain before we draw in the Tory gate. So we're going to go ahead and pinch those 2 layers together into a group, tap on your gradient at the bottom, create a new layer, go to your pen, go to your color, change your color to, we need the mountain colors, and that is going to be this color here. So it's the bottom of the first column. And of course you can see the mountain on the guide. So just draw in that shape all the way to the edge. It's very sort of Mount Fuji like. And then just draw down here, create like a little bit of an interest to the top, making it a little bit different, swoop that in. And then you just want to go ahead and you can probably just fill in the entirety of the bottom, to be honest with you, until it, doesn't fill anymore. Hit the tick. And then you just need to fade that out. So we'll grab our eraser, we'll tap on our eraser and just use this, let's use the medium brush and set it a lot bigger. Probably a bit bigger than that again, 500. And we'll just get rid of it from down here in behind our like landscape. There we go. And then we will just get rid of all of that there, making sure we don't leave any bits of that blue there. And then we want to go ahead and go to our brush, our eraser, tap on our eraser and definitely change it to the soft airbrush. And then set that size nice and large, probably max it out like near 800. And then just very lightly at the bottom here, create a lovely gradient on your mountain. Maybe a little bit more white over here to the left-hand side, but keep it towards the bottom edge. Keep that darkness at the top of the mountain still apparent, but as long as you kind of fade it out at the bottom enough so that all of the cloud-like colours kind of blend together, they look lovely. Now, let's go ahead and do the line work. So let's create a new layer, hit the 3 dots and save. We'll then go to our pen, make sure it's the dry inker, colour. We want to be, first of all, starting off with this blue here, bottom of the second column. We want to zoom in and we want to just add in some bits of snow on this edge up here. So I'm going to add in like a bit of colour here, and then size probably wants to be a smidge bigger, like a 12. We're going to go like along this edge here as well. I'm going to turn off my guide because it's getting in the way a little bit. And I want to make sure if I tap on this, I clip it to the actual mountain. So I can't draw outside of the mountain. I'm going to add in like a little bit of colour here. And then we want to start just bringing in some very thin lines. So you need to start getting very light with your pen. If you don't have a pen that has pressure sensitivity, you need to make your brush size smaller. And I'm actually going to bring in my guide again because I know that the snow should just about sort of start to trickle in behind my Tory gate here. So I just want it to kind of come a little bit closer down towards there. And I want these kind of thin lines. I don't mind it kind of chunky towards the top, but if you can have a gap, to be honest with you, it will look better. So I'm going to undo that one and just connect them through there. That looks good. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a big gap because all I'm going to do is try and sort of instigate a few sort of snowy capped lines over here as well. So like a few little lines, but this is our like cooler color because it's not quite the snow. It's just like an extra color in the shade. So 2 lines like this and maybe branch that off a little bit higher. And then I'm going to go ahead and create another new layer. It will clip itself automatically. Then go to your colors, grab the bottom of the third column, and we want to start adding in this snowy cap at the top up here. It's going to be fairly big and chunky, to be honest with you. And then it's going to kind of run along that kind of edge that we just created and maybe like even sort of lightly trickle over the top of it. You can bring that down into about here and then maybe just like a few little flicks round maybe make your brush size a tiny bit smaller. Keep going. I'm going to fluctuate the brush size up and down, but it's just about sort of trying to make sure I get the right kind of lining that I want. So I'm going right up towards the edge, try and chunk that one in a little bit more, and then maybe even like connect it onto like here as well. And then I'm going to do exactly that. I'm going to bring in like a big one here and add those lovely little sort of mountain cap lines just running down. It's meant to be as simple as that, to be honest with you. And then maybe you could just like introduce like a little bit of a snowy line just moving down, but overlap a tiny bit, maybe just make sure it's a little bit more solid towards the top than mine currently is. And then you can go back down to that color below and go back to the same color and maybe just like drag out those lines a little bit, or just like give like some of these snowy lines like a little bit of kind of like this blue underneath it, which should give it like a shaded yet snowy color to it. There's a little bit of logic there, I promise. So with that done, it's now time to move into the Tory gate itself. So if we take a look at our layers, I'm going to pinch together the mountain into a group, of course. Now I need to find my path. So my path is group number 4. So I'm going to tap down here, create a new layer, and then drag it in front of group number 4. So I'm going to hold down, drag it in front, and again, just triple check where your group is. Group number 4 is there, group number 5 is there, that's fine. Now on this layer, we're going to go ahead and we are going to go to our colors. We're going to grab the dark tone here, middle of the 3rd column. Your brush wants to still be set to the dry inker, of course. Now you could, to be honest with you, use something a little bit more solid because this is a solid object, but it's totally up to you what you'd rather do. I'm probably going to go ahead and actually go to calligraphy to start with and the monoline brush, because I want to make sure I get some nice straight lines in here. So I'm going to set the size to about 11 to start with. I'm going to draw in a straight line down and pop one finger on the screen just to triple check it is straight down into here. And then I'm probably going to make that a little bit wider. So I'm going to go to 15 and let's tap away. Let's try and draw that in again. Make that a little bit wider. Pop one finger on the screen again to make sure it's nice and straight down. Lovely stuff. Then we're going to go ahead and go across here. Hold my pen down at the end as well. So I'm just going to do that again because it tried to snap it to an angle. It likes to snap like this. So that looks fine. And then we're going to come down here as well. And this should then tuck itself, there we go, underneath there. So I need to chunk this one out quite a bit more. Well, not quite a bit more. It's meant to be a bit closer towards us. I'm going to do the same here as well. Just try and make that a little bit wider. That is okay for, in fact, no, let's make that a little bit bigger as well. I'm just comparing it to my previous attempt. So yeah, let's just go ahead and draw that in. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to fully be straight. As long as you get it quite close, it looks fine. The only thing you then want to do is go to your eraser and tap on your eraser, go to calligraphy and the monoline brush, and then just with a small size, just chop off the end there so it's not rounded. It needs to be nice and sharp. You can do the same here as well. Just chop off the bottom of that edge there. Now, we then want to go ahead and I'm going to stick with the same brush for a minute. I'm going to make it a bit smaller, around about 10. We need to create a curve that runs across here for our gate. So we're going to create a curve, hold my pen down at the end, and you can adjust it. You can tap on the line as well when you're done and just adjust it accordingly as you need it. So you want to kind of make sure it's a little bit sort of overhanging on the right a bit more perhaps, and then tap away when you're done. And then let's go ahead and create a slightly longer version of that along the top. Hold your pen down and then again tap on the line just to get that editing mode in, and make sure it's a little bit longer, a little bit kind of, you know, giving you that little bit of thickness in there, and then tap away. And then what you want to do is you want to draw like up from the edge, then mirror the line above and then connect it together like so. So then you end up with like this like step. So you sort of draw 2 lines up if you want and then connect them with a horizontal line, and then grab your fill tool and tap and drag in there and hit the tick when you're done. So that's the top of your gate completely done, other than a little connecting line that needs to run in the middle here. Now that's probably a little bit off to the right a bit more. So I'm just going to, there we go, let go, zoom out, triple check. There we go, that's looking lovely. Now that's actually also pretty good, sort of bang on. So what I'm going to now do is I'm going to tap on the layer, I'm going to alpha lock it so I can't paint outside of it. I'm going to go to my brush again, I'm going to switch it back to pens and the dry inker. We'll go to our colours, we'll grab the highlight tone, which is the middle here of the second column from the right. And you want to do this in kind of 2 tiers. So you need like a brush size, yeah, probably around about 10. You want to do the face of this top one here all the way kind of off to the edge, but making sure the left hand side's got a little bit more color to it. So like here, left hand edge, and then that color can sort of fade off at the right hand side. Then you want to leave a gap so that you can create like an overhanging shadow almost, and then create like the underside down here as well in a similar fashion, but you leave that gap in order then just to give yourself what looks like a shadow overhanging the top. Now we can probably thicken out the top as well, make that go a little bit wider, a little bit longer and off towards that edge, but then that casts a shadow, which therefore stops the colour from going all the way to the edge over here. You then want to, again, leave a gap because the top would create a little bit of an overhanging shadow, and then a little bit of a line there. Now I'm going to draw in a line all the way across here. I'm going to hold my pen down, in fact. No, in fact, I'll do it manually because it wants to snap it constantly to the wrong line, and I don't want that. So I'm going to create a little bit of highlight here, a little bit of highlight on the inside there. We'll leave a gap where that would create an overhanging shadow, and you can just drag your colour down into the bottom and then drag your colour down the edge over here as well, like so. And then we're going to go to our colours. We're going to add in a little bit of highlight using, for example, let's grab the bottom of the 3rd column, and then you just want to add in like a teeny tiny amount of this, like on the edge here. You see how close I am to the inside of the object. I'm going to add in like a little bit of colour along there as well. And then just up here, I'm going to leave it that little bit of that curve, and then yeah, a little bit of highlight on that top edge up there. That's going to look really nice and lovely, nice and showing that light just coming across, catching on it. And then we'll add in a scratch or 2 of colour down this edge over here, maybe a smidge of it on the end over there too, and then again a little bit on the inside of this edge over here as well, just to really help it kind of pop off a little bit more. We're then going to go ahead and create a new layer in front of our gate. We're going to go to our colours, and we're going to grab the bottom of the 1st column. I'm going to go back to my brush under calligraphy and the monoline brush because I need to zoom in here, and I just need to create like a rectangle that is wider. Don't worry about overlapping as well your actual gate itself. You just want to make sure you, there we go, add that in. Don't worry about the low power, that's fine. And then on the right hand side, do the similar kind of thing, kind of horizontal to your previous one. So create like a block here, which is where it just connects into the ground. Then from there, we're going to go ahead and tap on that, lock it. We'll go to our brush, we will go back to pens. We'll go to our colour, grab the bottom of the 2nd column, and then we'll just add in a teeny tiny bit of highlight just down this edge, really small with your brush size, probably like a 2 or 3, and then just like a line just around the top there. So you get like a little line and then a little bit down that edge, and then again, same over here, and then like a little line just to show like the landing on the surface. Now subsequently, you probably need to create a new layer, drag it underneath your gate as well, and then go to your colours. Let's grab a shadow tone. So let's grab the middle of the far right column, and then you just want to kind of push out onto your ground, a little bit larger brush size, maybe like a 12, just like a bit of a shadow off of the base over here, and just kind of plant it a little bit more on the pathway, creating a bit of a shadow that goes backwards at the end of the day, and we're not too interested in where it goes. Now, to be honest with you, just before I finish up, I'd probably go back to my Tory gate and just triple check it is locked. I'll probably go to my colours again and grab that highlight tone, so the middle of the 2nd column from the right, and I'd probably just start chipping away at some of those highlights. They're probably a little bit too big, in my opinion. Like, I don't want them to be too white, so I'm just going to overlap this colour here, just tone them down a little bit, not a lot, but just a little bit, so you get like a little bit of the specks. But I think the colour of this colour looks better, if I'm honest, so I'm just going to wrap that round at the top there, just overlapping that a bit more, leaving a smidge of that additional kind of speckle of colour. And if we go to the very top, we turn off our guide, we pinch with 2 fingers, and we go full screen with 4, we end up with today's finished design. As always, let's just collapse that down, hit the 3 dots and save, and then repeat. So I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. As always, make sure to tag me in your finished creations wherever you decide to share them, like Instagram and Facebook. If you want to get early access to these tutorials, be sure to become a member of the channel. Hit the join button down below, drop a like, drop a comment, whichever you want to do to show your support. And with all that said, I'll see you in the next one.